Accounting for corporation, we are now down to the last module for our financial accounting and reporting subject. So, um, our module for accounting for corporation is divided into three lessons. So we have the first lesson, the basic considerations. The second one is about share capital, and the third one is about retained earnings, particularly on the dividends. So we will only focus on dividends. Um, we will not discuss some other parts of the retained earnings, as those topics will also be discussed in the higher accounting courses. So to begin, let us have lesson 1, basic considerations. So there are some matters that I would like to emphasize here. I will not discuss all of these since I have already given the module a week before. So I just want to emphasize a few things under this lesson. First is about the revised corporation code. But before that, I would like to have a short recap about the three forms of organization that we have encountered so far. So I believe we are already done in sole proprietorship. So sole proprietorship is a kind of business organization owned by a single person. Yes, so there are advantages and there are also disadvantages in this form of organization. So maybe one thing about this type of organization is that there is only one owner. And if there's only one owner, that owner is the one who will carry the burden of the whole business. But at the same time, that owner will solely benefit for the whole profit of the business. Okay, so siya-siya lang jud. So some disadvantages are first, since ikaw lang man isa ang nag-establish sa business, so maybe you will have a limited fund. Okay, and in such case also, if you want to borrow from the bank, it won't be as easy as a corporation, because, or it may be easy, but the amount of money that you could borrow from the bank would not be as much as the corporation could, because kasi nga you're just a sole proprietor, so you cannot borrow a large amount of money, except if you have a certain large amount of deposit of on the certain bank din, di ba? And then the second one, we have partnership. So I believe we already discussed this partnership as well sa previous na module. So partnership now is composed of two or more persons, and this partnership or this form of organization is established by a mere agreement of the partners composing the partnership. So when we say a mere agreement, it could there could be a contract between the partners. So hindi kailangan na mag-file sila sa sa kung saan sila kailangan na mag-file at based on the instruction of the government, but there should have been a contract between the partners. So a written contract or an oral contract would do. And then lastly, we have this corporation. So, murag nagapataas atong level, no? So first we have sole, and then partnership, and then pinabongga no corporation. So in a corporation, um, mas dako siya, and if mas dako siya, daghan pud siya og advantages na wala sa sole and sa proprietor. I mean sa sole and sa partnership. And also napud siya mga disadvantages na somehow dili pud ma-experience ni sole and ni partnership. So before we dig deeper to the advantages and disadvantages of corporation compared to the other two forms of organization, let us have an emphasis on this revised corporation code. So actually na-shock din ako kasi na-revise na palang corporation code natin, because when I was in undergrad, we are using this Batas Pambansa Bilang 68, or known as the Corporation Code of the Philippines, under the 1980 Constitution. So, according to Republic Act 11232, or otherwise known as the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines, this corporation code is effective from February 23, 2019 until the present. So this is actually a revision under the presidency of our current president, President Digong. So we are going to use the revised corporation code since last year pa naman pala to naging effective. And there are some items, although not all sections or all matters in BP 68 ang na-change, but there are important matters na na-change. Okay? So, along the way, we are going to encounter some of those important matters na nawala sa old corporation or naiba from the old corporation code to the new corporation code. So, there are items na dinilit, may ibang items din na change. Okay? So, firstly, a corporation is an artificial being. Ma'am, what do you mean by an artificial being? Artificial in a sense na hindi naman siya yung natural person just like me and you. Artificial lang siya in a sense na this corporation or this entity is just formed or created by operation of law. Artificial being in a sense na meron siyang separate personality apart from its shareholders, members, directors, or those persons forming the partnership. So, but just like a natural person, meron din siyang mga rights. Although hindi lahat ng rights ng isang tao is meron din ng corporation. Like, example, the right to vote. Yes, may right to vote ang isang tao, but this corporation, an artificial one, cannot vote. But like the right to sue and be sued. So, your right na magsampa ng kaso at masampahan ng kaso, meron din yan sa tao and meron din yan sa isang artificial na tao or artificial being, which is a corporation. So, those are just examples of rights na meron ang corporation na katulad ng tao or right na wala siya kasi limited lang siya for the natural persons. Although these corporation or artificial being have the right of succession and the powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incident to its existence. So, yung rights ng corporation are just limited as to what the law offers to the corporation or incident to its existence. So, murabag nature na tungkol sa iyahang nga operation. So, again, limited lang ang rights, although ginatawag siya as an artificial being with a personality on its own. So, it's like a person, an artificial person. Okay? Kita, tao, we are natural persons. Okay? So, just take note of these four. These are important, these are key components of the definition of a corporation. Now, let us go to these advantages and disadvantages of a corporation. So, first, let's have advantages. The corporation has the legal capacity to act as a legal entity. So, I guess, meron din ganun yung partnership, di ba? So, pwede siya makalihok on its own. And then, the shareholders or the members forming the corporation, napod sila yung sarili nilang kinabuhi. So, may sarili-sariling buhay sila. So, it has the legal capacity. Legal in the sense na it is, again, created by operation of law. So, the capacity of this corporation to act is based on what the law provides. And then, shareholders have limited liability. Hindi siya katulad ni sole, hindi siya katulad ni partnership. So, this is one thing na naka-highlight kay corporation from the rest of the group, no? Kasi, si sole tsaka si partnership, meron silang unlimited liability, right? So, if in case na may mga creditors na hindi mababayaran, they could go against the personal properties of the proprietor or of the partners. But in a corporation, it cannot be. So, if the corporation has creditors na hindi niya nabayaran after dissolution, those creditors could not go against the properties of the members or of the directors of the corporation. Okay, so although it will undergo a due process, but again, limited liability lang ang shareholders. It has continuity of existence. Shares of stock can be transferred without the consent of the other shareholders. Remember the partnership dissolution, that the temporary interruption in the business organization because of the death of a partner withdrawal of a partner, admission of a new partner, incorporation, and things like that. So, unlike a partnership, if may mga mag-change ng if mag-change ng owners ang corporation, hindi niya kailangan na ma-dissolve. Okay? Um, and also, the shares of stock can be transferred even without the consent of other shareholders. So unlike again partnership na kailangan ng unanimous consent of all the partners, hindi na yan kailangan ni corporation. So if you want to sell your stock, example, you are owning a certain stock in Jollibee Corporation and if you want to sell that stock to your friends, so hindi mo na kailangan na makipag-usap pa sa board of directors. Okay, magpaalam pa sa kanila. So, no. So, that's one advantage kasi hindi na siya ganun ka-complicated. Its management is centralized in the board of directors. So, wala tayong naririnig masyado na board of directors kay partnership, right? And shareholders are not general agents of the business. So, unlike partnership and proprietorship, kung sino yung mga owners or nag-form ng business, di ba sila talaga yung nagiging agents, so sila yung mga hands-on dun sa business. But in corporation, just because you're a shareholder doesn't mean that you have to take care of the management of the corporation. So shareholders, igo ra gyud ka holder of shares. You do not um you don't necessarily manage the corporation. So you are not an agent. So kung gusto ka mangutang kag para sa imuha, dili nimo kailangan na mangutang in behalf of the corporation because you're just a shareholder. Again, the corporation has its personality on its own. So kung mangutang si corporation, utang under the name of the corporation. So things like that. You cannot be an agent. So you cannot enter into a transaction in behalf of the corporation. So it's an advantage on your part kasi wala lang, tigdawat lang ka o dividends at the end of the day. And greater ability to acquire funds. So I guess I already mentioned this one a while ago. Unlike Soul, limited lang ang imong pwede na mautang in a bank and limited lang po imong ma-raise na capital. But in a corporation, since daghan mo, so pwede mo mag-ambag-ambagan and since a corporation is dako nga form of organization, so kung mangutang ka sa bank, there is a high probability that the bank would grant you a higher amount of loan. So if we have advantages, we also have these disadvantages. So corporation is relatively complicated in formation and management. So complicated siya in a sense na kailangan nimo siya i-apply, kailangan nimo mag-process sa mga papeles. So if you want to have your corporation registered, kailangan nimo mo-add to sa SEC. And also, if you are forming a corporation, kailangan nimo mag-file or mag-submit og articles of incorporation which we will encounter at a later part ani nga discussion. So naay complicated na process bago ka maka-form sa corporation. Well, unlike Soul, makahuna-huna lang ka nga mag-business ka as long as nakay capital, then okay. Unlike partnership, as long as you have the mere agreement, then you're good to go. But in a corporation, you don't have to have an agreement alone. So you have to undergo a certain process in order for you to be acknowledged as an existing or a legit corporation. Now, there is a greater degree of government control and supervision. So yes, nakikialam talaga si government sa corporations. Hindi siya masyadong nakikialam sa mga sole proprietorship lang. It requires a relatively high cost of formation. It is subject to heavier tax since mas dako na siya nga kumpanya. So, there is also this thinking ba na mas dako pud ang iyahang income. So, mas dako pud ang tax nga ginapataw sa iyahan ni BIR. Okay? And then we have minority shares are subservient to the wishes of the majority. So, if there are decisions that have to be decisions which have to be made in the corporation, kung unsa ang decision sa majority will be followed. Okay? So, hindi naman siya all the time majority. Meron din namang 2/3, di ba, majority is just half plus 1. So, there are also decisions na kailangan og 2/3 votes. So, again, kung unsa to ang na-decidean sa kadaghanan, mo to siyang masunod. So, if dili ka uyon ato but you are just a minor shareholder or your vote is forming part of the minority vote, then wala kang magagawa, okay? So, susundin yung vote ng nakararami. In large corporations, management and control have been separated from ownership. So, um, hin, uh, may mga managers sa corporation na hindi naman sila mga shareholders. Yung shareholders, sila yung tinatawag na owners of the corporation. But again, 'di ba sinabi ko kanina, there are shareholders na hindi naman sila nakikialam sa operation of the corporation. Sino ang mga hands-on sa operation sa corporation? Ito yung tinatawag na management. So, the management or doon mga managers, hindi sila kailangan na holder ng shares. Okay? Yung mga shareholders naman, hindi sila kailangan na maging managers sa corporation. Although, may mga panahon naman na manager ka, at the same time, shareholder ka din. So, you have this certain percentage in the ownership of the corporation. And then, transferability of shares permits the uniting of incompatible and unconflicting elements in one venture. So, ventures. Let's not complicate number 7. So, sometime soon in higher accounting, you're going to understand this one. Classes of corporation. So, we have stock and non-stock. So, pakibasa na lang. And then, okay. So, other parts na I want to emphasize is this, components of a corporation. So, di ba, I mentioned kanina, when you are going to form a corporation, you have to submit these articles of incorporation to the Securities and Exchange Commission or SEC. And upon filing of this AOI, you have to indicate there those persons who are forming this corporation. So, kinsa gyud tong nagsugod, kumbaga, kinsa tong mga nahimo nga pioneer sa kani nga corporation, kinsa tong mga musugod sa corporation. So those persons should be indicated in the AOI or the Articles of Incorporation, and those persons should sign in the Articles of Incorporation indicating that they want to incorporate this corporation. Okay? So they are signatories to the said AOI. And these persons nga nakabutang ang pangalan sa AOI as those persons nga nag-pioneer sa corporation or those persons who want to form the corporation and ni-sign dito sa corporation or ni-sign sa AOI, these persons are called incorporators. Okay? Again, these persons are called incorporators. So, under the old corporation code, kailangan ang incorporators, katong persons nga mo form initially sa corporation should be natural persons. Natural, so tao jud. Okay? So na-distinguish na to ganina ang natural and artificial. Under the old corporation code, these incorporators should be natural persons. But under the new code or the revised corporation code, any person, partnership, association, corporation could now form a corporation, but not more than 15 in number. So under the old code, old code, ganun pa rin. Hindi dapat sumobra sa 15. Pero ang nag-change lang sa revised is kaning persons na pwedeng mag-form or pwedeng mahimong incorporators. Again, in the old law, kailangan natural persons ang incorporators. But in the revised corporation code, pwede na ang partnership, association, or corporation. Ngano day ma'am, unsa din partnership, association, or corporation? These are not natural persons. These are artificial persons. Okay? Nabaday tao nga partnership. Wala, it's just a business. Association, again, it's just a business. Corporation, it's just a business. It's another entity, but an artificial one. So, mao na siya ang kalahian sa old code and the new code. So, again, in the new code, pwede na natural and artificial ang mahimong incorporators. Now, ma'am, unsa man po ning incorporators? So, these incorporators are those persons nga nahimong shareholders, okay, or stockholders, or members. So, in case of non-stock corporation, we call those persons nga owners as members. Under stock corporation, we call them shareholders or stockholders. So, di ba pag sugod sa partnership, ang nag-initiate ang incorporators. After the corporation has been established, so kanus aman ta makaingon nga naanay kinabuhi ang corporation, or kanus aman siya nga naano siya legal, tawag nito, legal existence. Okay? It's the time when the certificate of incorporation has been issued by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So, you have to take note of that. So, dili, the moment nga nagpasa ka og articles, kay mao na pud na ang panahon nga hatagan pud ka sa certificate. No. I have encountered this during my internship. I guess it was more than a year misigig pasa og articles of incorporation kay naay permitting nga ginapa-change si Securities and Exchange Commission. So, a year of filing and filing until after a year, saka pa mi nila gihatagan og certificate of incorporation. So, the moment nga makadawat na kag certificate of incorporation, mao na ang birth kay dra na nabanhaw kumbaga ang kaning legal or kaning artificial life ni corporation. So, the moment nga na-establish na si corporation, syempre mag-start na taog kanang pangdani, di ba? Pang-invite og uban nga mo invest or mahimo nga shareholders mo palit og stocks. So these persons nga nipalit og stocks, okay? These persons nga nahimong partners, nahimong owners sa corporation because nipalit na sila og stocks, but nipalit sila og stocks after the incorporation, we call them corporators. Okay, para dili libog. Again, incorporators, nahimo silang owners because they are the ones who made an initiative to form the corporation. So, unsa man ang ilhanan ani, if their names are indicated in the articles or their signatures are indicated therein. So, moto sila ang ginatawag na incorporators. But these corporators, dili na sila kailangan nga mo appear sa Articles of Incorporation kay nasubmit na to kay SEC. Dili na kailangan nga mo pirma sila sa Articles of Incorporation kay nasubmit naman sa SEC. These corporators, ning sulod lang sila sa eksena after na nga na-incorporate ang corporation. So, ma'am, corporators could be natural or artificial? Both? Both. Okay? Corporators could be natural or artificial under the new and the old corporation code. So, kana lang ang kalahian. So, simply put, these incorporators are corporators. Corporators pud sila in a sense nga nipalit man pud sila og stocks. Di ba mo man to ang definition sa corporators, ning palit og stocks. All incorporators are corporators, but not all corporators are incorporators. Kay dili man sila, wala man sila ni appear sa Articles of Incorporation or nag-sign dito. So we have here shareholders, we have here members, subscribers, promoter, underwriters. So I will leave the reading to you. And I'm sure ngayon na siyang nabasa beforehand. Classes of shares, we have par and no par shares. And then we have here a draft of what an Articles of Incorporation look like. So, mao na siya ang prescribed form. Yan. So, asa man to imong ingon, ma'am, nga na dapat ang name sa corporators or na ang name sa incorporators. Ayan, fifth, that the names, nationalities, and residence addresses of the incorporators of the corporation are as follows. Andyan yung mga pangalan nila. Okay? So, later on, makita po na ang ilahang ang mga pirma. So, we have here the directors as well, provided there. Pila ang stocks, and things like that. Okay? So, ayan. Names and signatures of the incorporators. So, kung kinsa lang yun tong nakasulat din ang mga pangalan o mga nipirma, sila tong mga incorporators. But they are also called corporators kay dili ka pwede mahimong incorporator, di ba? Nag-initiate pa kag form og corporation kung di man day ka interesado mo palit sa stocks. So, these incorporators are also corporators in a sense that they are also committed to buy stocks in the forming corporation. So, you have here a comparison of RCCP or the revised code compared to the old. Okay, so ayan, ito na-mention ko na to kanina, only natural persons, but under the revised, pwede na ang mga artificial persons. And then, so, yan. Palihog na lang kong basa. And then, this I would like to emphasize. Under the old code, you have to have this 25-25 na requirement. Okay? 25% of the authorized capital stock or authorized shares kasi ang ownership sa corporation, it is divided into shares. So, these shares, so let me share this one. This is an example of a certificate of stock or a stock certificate nga ginahatag the moment na mopalit ka og share sa usa ka corporation. Ayan. So, this is again a stock certificate. So, pag mopalit ka og share sa corporation, hatagan ka nila ani. This is just a draft ha. Hindi kailangan na ganito talaga sa lahat ng companies. So, you have their company name. Like example, you have Jollibee Corporation. This certifies that Willie G. Amora is the registered holder of, example, I bought 10,000 shares. So, a holder of 10,000 shares. So, hindi ibig sabihin na isa ka share, isa pod ka certificate. So, kailangan ko magdaladalag 10,000 kayong ani, dili na. So, butang na diretso 10,000 shares of the capital stock transferable only in the books of corporation and etc. In witness hereof or whereof the said corporation has caused the certificate to be signed by its duly authorized officers and its corporate seal. So most of the time, ang nag-assign aning stock certificate is the president or the treasurer. Yes, secretary. So this is just an example of a stock certificate. So going back, sa una, pag mupalit under the old code, pag mupalit ka, pag mag-form ka og corporation, dapat 25% sa imuhang authorized capital stock. So, from the term itself, you are authorized to issue a number of shares. Example, pag form sa corporation na nanghid ka kang SEC, nga mag-issue ka og 1 million ka shares. So, you have their 1 million authorized capital stock. So, at least 25% of that must be subscribed. So, pasabot subscribe na anay mga ni-commit nga mo palit. And we call them subscribers. Okay? Subscribers. So, katong mga nag-incorporate, they are subscribers too. So, kailangan po nila nga mag-subscribe. And at least 25% of the subscribed must be paid up. So, kung nag-subscribe ka dito 250,000, dapat 25% ana, nabayaran na. So, bali ba, na down payment. Okay, mo na siya ang instruction or ang naa sa corporation code sa old. But under the new, no minimum capital stock required unless required by special law. So, na mga special laws aside from corporation code. And there is also no minimum subscribed capital. So, 'di ba, wala na problema nga mag-compute. So, dili na kakailangan og subscription, etc. But take note, this rule applies only upon incorporation. So, naay part in the process. So, sana ba yun? I think ihatong na-mention somewhere diri. Okay, ito. No minimum capital stock. Ano siya? Note that the 25% subscribed and 25% paid up rule is still applicable when the corporation increases its capital stock. So, kanus lang man nag-apply tong no minimum capital stock requirement upon incorporation. So, ayan. At the time of incorporation, this rule have been deleted in the revised code. But this rule was not deleted in the revised code. I'm not sure kung nalimtan lang ba ni revise or wala intentionally wala gyud nila giusab. So, ma'am, unsay pasabot ani? Okay, di ba atong assumption kay natay 1 million authorized stock. So, we could sell 1 million mo natong gipananghid ni SEC. So, what if after, let's say, 5 years, nahurot na itong baligya ang 1 million shares? And then there are still people who are willing to buy shares from us. Since wala naman tayo authorized share, dili man punta pwede nga magbuhat-buhat lang sariling shares, kailangan man nato ipananghid kay SEC. So, we are going to apply for another, hindi naman apply yung term, pero malanghid baga kay SEC na mag-issue na punta og another set of shares. So, in that case, pag nag-subscribe ka usab, or kung gusto nimo i-increase katong imong authorized shares from 1 million dungagan nimo og another 1 million kadto nga increase dapat na kamo follow sa 25-25 nga rule. So 25% of the new authorized shares should be subscribed and 25% of that subscribed shares should be paid up. Okay? So lastly, I guess ito na yung last na itatackle ko for this topic, hierarchy of corporate structure. So again, I mentioned kanina, the shareholders talaga yung tinatawag natin na owners of the corporation, but that doesn't mean na sila na ang mo-manage, okay? These shareholders, there are corporations na ang daming shareholders, so ang daming managers, hindi mo maisip kung paano yun. So these shareholders could elect board of directors. So these board of directors are composed of the president, the secretary, the treasurer, and some other directors. Okay? So itong board, sila na yung mag-e-elect sa officers. So and then these officers or the management, sila na yung mag-hire sa employees. So there are certain requirements under the old code na still existing in the revised code. The president must be a director of a corporation, but he cannot act as a president and secretary or president and treasurer at the same time. Okay? So, ma'am, unsay pasabot na the president must be a director. Okay? Pasabot, kung mahimo kang president sa company or sa corporation, dapat member ka sa board of directors. Paunsa man ka mahimong member sa board, dapat gi-elect ka sa shareholders as member sa board. Okay? So, dapat member ka sa board. And then, it was also stated in the corporation code na ma'am, unsay requirement nga mahimo kang board of director. The requirement is you have to have at least one share, one ownership. You have to be a shareholder of at least one share. So kung dili ka shareholder, wala kay ginagunitan nga ownership sa corporation, you cannot be the president. Okay? At least one. That's the requirement. But I believe hindi ka naman bibili ng isang share lang, di ba? The corporate secretary, on the other hand, must be a resident and a citizen of the Philippines. So, hindi niya kailangan na maging director. So, ito lang yung requirement niya, resident and citizen. Corporate treasurer, on the other hand, according to the revised code, must be a resident of the Philippines. Again, pwede siyang director, pwede ding hindi. Pwede siyang member sa board, pwede ding hindi. And then, pwede siya nga i-elect as treasurer. Okay, so these other things, I will leave this to you. So, we have here rights of a shareholder. So, di pa dito ang last, ma'am, dili pa, sorry. So, you have here rights of a shareholder. I would like to emphasize this preemptive right. The right to purchase a portion of new shares issued to maintain the same percentage of stock. Pasabot, di ba kaganina, ato ang assumption kay 1 million ang ato ang authorized share sa sugod. And then, nahurot na itong dispose for, let's say, 3 years. And then, nananghid na po na kay SEC nga, dungagan na po na itong another 1 million. So, this preemptive right says, before na i-offer ni corporation ang 1 million sa gawas, sa katong dili pa owners sa corporation, kailangan i-offer sa niya sa mga existing owners. What if I am a shareholder of that corporation and I bought 250,000 shares? So, pilang ako ang percentage ownership? I am 25% owner of the corporation. And then, nag-increase og 1 million. So, on my case, ako ang gusto na ako i-maintain akong 25% ownership. So, kailangan ko mo palit og another 250,000 sa bag-o nga mga issued na shares katong pa-increase nga 1 million. So, I am going to exercise my preemptive right. So, corporation, before that nimo ibaligya sa gawas, ako sang i-exercise ang ako ang right. The corporation cannot say, ay, ayaw, kay akong friend sa gawas, gusto dyan siya mo palit og 1 million. No, I have the right to purchase a portion of that because I want to maintain my 25% ownership. I am exercising my preemptive right. But however, this right is not absolute and may be denied. So at some cases, pwede siya ma-deny. Okay? So on a certain basis naman. Yung reasonable, okay? And then you have here corporate books and records. So I guess that ends the first part of our corporation accounting. And the next one would be share capital. So I hope you learned a lot. And the things na hindi naman na-discuss, please take time reading those items. Just because hindi ko siya diniscuss, hindi siya importante. Yes, hindi siya importante. Ang diniscuss ko, yung importante of all the importante. Okay, so that's the basic consideration or part one of our corporation accounting. Thank you.